Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good evening, everyone. How's everybody doing? Good? During the summer? Ryan, you good? Yeah. All right. Second item on the agenda, approval of the minutes of May 23rd, 2023. Did everybody get a chance to review the minutes? Any amendments or corrections? If not, looking for a motion to approve. So, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Minutes are approved as written. All right, third on the agenda, 84 Curley Mill Road, preliminary plan review. Before we start, if there's any members of the public that want to ask questions, you'll be welcome to do at the end. After we went through staff and through the board, I'll open up to the public. At which point you'll state your name and your address so we can put it on record. With that said, if you can introduce your party and your project, it would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission staff. My name is Mike Malloy. I'm a lawyer with Overmeyer, Revin, Maxwell, Hippel, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant tonight for 84 Curley Mill Road, known as the Clemenco minor subdivision. And just some points of clarification for the commission. I know there's a note on the plan about a rezoning. That is not why we're here tonight. I'm not here to talk about a rezoning. The only thing that is before the planning commission, and the review letter, does point some things out. Rachel Butch is here from Shoulder and Associates, and she'll be able to answer any engineering review letter questions. While there were a lot of comments, and I know I spoke with Mr. Conroy before, and maybe the commission would like a cleaner letter. I told him that I'd politely push for the recommendation anyway, because really all we're doing is creating the 2.45 acre lot 1. That is all we're doing, is we're taking an existing house and other ancillary buildings. We're putting them on a 2.45 acre parcel, and we're subdividing it off from the rest of the lot. We understand that the remainder of the lot, the 0.44 acre lot 2 does have watershed zoning and as R2. And I think, we're not seeking any approvals for that because the landowner just doesn't know what they want to do with it. I can assume that at some point it will be residential of some kind, and it will take into account the watershed district as well. So that's all we're here to do. Rachel can walk through. We have a couple waivers. Some of the waivers have to do with the fact that we're not changing anything physically on the property. It's simply a subdivision to create this lot. And so I think some of the waivers relate to that and the chance and possibility of future development, at some point, in some way, on the rest of that lot 2, that will then account and some of those improvements that are requested in the ordinance into the project. So I'll ask Rachel, or if you have any questions.
Well, my first question, why isn't it a rezone? There's 15 feet in the back of that lot that is a watershed. Where's the what are we doing there? Is it gonna become SR2 automatically, or is it gonna be a parcel watershed and SR2?
Combined.
Which one are you talking?
I'm talking the existing lot 1.
Lot 1. Okay. That little.
In the back, you have watershed. You
Yeah,
have
I see
about
that.
15,
Okay.
20 feet of watershed.
Um,
What? In your review letter stated that the supervisors would have to, or the township would have to approve the rezone.
Currently, the applicant's not proposing a rezone, and they're not required to rezone it, so they would just need to base their setback off the watershed.
Okay.
Regulations.
So we don't need a rezone. So that watershed stays watershed on their parcel.
It can
Right.
stay splits.
Right, the confusion was that the applicant probably at some point was considering requesting a rezone from the township, and so now they're not,
Okay,
just the subdivision. So that little sliver, correct me if I'm wrong, is just gonna remain watershed. And we have to respect that. The owner of lot 1, we need to respect that area.
Okay,
afford it.
all right, well, thanks for the clarification.
So I could get Rachel to walk through the waiver requests, maybe, for the planning commission, and anything else you wanted to talk about with the plan. Again, we're literally just drawing a line.
Okay, so anything that's happening on that lot that's it conforms to SR2. It doesn't even take that small watershed.
Well, it's kind of both. The zoning requirements for SR2 and the watershed district still apply to both lots because, like you said, it is split
Right,
zoned.
right.
But the requirements that the watershed imposed on the lot, we can meet, and then the requirements that SR2 imposed on the lot.
Okay,
So if that weren't the case, then we would have to be, helping.
okay, gotcha.
So you can meet the impervious for lot 1 watershed restrictions.
No, because all the impervious is located on the SR2 portion of the lot. So we meet the,
So you meet the impervious on that one, you meet all the setbacks for SR2, and
and the watershed comes into play pretty much just for the rear yard.
because you're setback.
Again, that's the zoning district that section of the property is in.
No, I understand that, but your setbacks, because all your information there is in SR2, your setbacks from the watershed line, a portion your setbacks are based on SR2.
So the setback would still be from the property line. That's actually a comment in Janine's letter, is that the rear yard setback, we have 75 on the plan, which is SR2, but it really should be 65, which is what the watershed.
Okay,
It's
then.
actually-
Is that right? Is that, I mean, that's like excessive. Okay, I mean, good. That's good.
So on that lot 1 there's an existing house, there's a lot of buildings, there's an existing house, there's a 2-story
Yeah.
barn, there's a 1-story barn,
Right.
a garage and a workshop. The 3 buildings that are in good shape are proposed to remain. There's a barn in the back that's not in great shape, and then there's a shed. That's proposed to be removed also. And they're the 2 buildings that are closest to the rear of the property that are nearest to the watershed district.
And what's the impervious, total impervious once that occurs?
Well, 25 is what's permitted for SR2. We're proposing about 22% on lot 1, and it's 7% on lot 2.
Well, just talking lot 1.
Yeah, on lot 1. So it's 21.4%.
So it's pretty close.
That is there.
That's
There are-
pretty tight. It's pretty
Well,
close.
there's an existing house with a driveway that's really new. We need to improve the lot anymore in order to use it, right? Because there's already an existing house up there.
Sure.
So there's no real addition.
But if the calculation isn't perfect, you could be over and they can't do anything else.
Well, that's what, yeah, right.
Well, I'm just thinking about the lot size,
Mhm.
could be bigger.
There is a lot of driveway there now that's making it so high. So that's something that Janine actually had some comments about there finding some of the impervious calc, so we do have to look at that again. But I don't have any reason to think that we wouldn't be able to meet the impervious. We can always just.
Good thing you're not in watershed. Completely.
So to meet the impervious, there's a lot of removal to take place there on that lot, correct?
It's not necessarily required to be, it's, let's see.
What's all those structures in the back of the house? Are they like greenhouses? What are they?
Behind the house, the largest structure is the garage and a workshop. All the way toward the rear is a barn. That's proposed to be removed. I think that's not in the greatest shape. And then off to the side, to the top of the plan.
But what's all those, they look like army barracks. Are they gardens or something? Are they structures?
Greenhouses?
Greenhouses? There's like 6 or 7, like on the satellite. Maybe they're gardens or something.
Hoop
Maybe
houses?
there was a nursery. Maybe,
Hoop houses.
yeah.
King's Nursery.
Yeah.
One of the things to point out too is that there is this pond in the corner of the property and a riparian buffer we've identified around the pond, and that area is proposed as as required to be, conserved in a conservation easement. That's about like 6 acres.
It have to be. Didn't they say something about it?
The existing house is on a well. And there is a gravity sanitary sewer line that runs along the whole frontage of the property that, the existing house ties into as well. So it's on lot wells and public sewers.
Yeah, there's no public water on that road. And can I read that we recommend that they tie into public sewer?
They're actually required to tie in public
Mhm.
sewer. The house, lot one already is.
They're saying that the house is tied into public sewer, or they just have the
is
basically
already.
the T.
It is.
It's already, they already did that?
It's a-
That was fast.
No, it's required.
Well, no, they just put the sewer line in.
Oh, they did?
They extended the sewer line and the original line was in this area. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they recently connected with it. I
Always
think that they were connected before it was extended beyond our property.
Yeah, they just did that with the Hallmark homes down the road.
Can I go through the waivers?
Yes, please.
So we have 3 waivers that we identified based on Gilmore's review. So the rest of the subdivision and land development comments in the letter, we can comply with. The first waiver is related to, the requirements to provide separate preliminary and final plan submissions. Due to the simple nature of this, we're requiring to do this in one step. The second waiver is related to the frontage improvements along Curley Mill Road. The ultimate right of way actually was previously dedicated to New Britain Township. However, the existing cartway is 18 feet wide and the ordinance requires 36. So there's some widening that will be required. And there's also curbing and sidewalks that are required. Ordinance. They're proposing to waive these at the times that we don't have any actual physical improvement that are being proposed. And that's,
But you are proposing to, I'm sorry, relocate the driveway for lot one.
we are proposing to relocate the drive.
Access to Curly Mill Road. Right, yeah. There are no current sidewalks on that road. Yeah, it's it would be a sidewalk to nowhere. As far as the road winding,
We would recommend our office meet with the public works director to look at, I know there's a swale out there. It could use some work, maybe some regrading. But we would not necessarily recommend a waiver of all the road improvements, but that it be deferred until the development on lot 2 and any road improvements required along lot 2 also take place on lot 1 to match as well.
it's fair enough.
Why don't you just preserve lot 2? You thought about that?
Certainly talk.
Be great.
So I mean, are we all in agreement that sidewalks are not necessary?
Yeah.
And then basically tie in the 2 lots on the road improvements. And what was the third?
The final preliminary.
Right, well, sorry, it's been a long day. Right. Well, my biggest concern has been resolved, which was the zoning watershed, the SR2, but that's not a factor for you guys. It's not a factor for us.
Finding one like that before.
Yeah, it's tricky. There's
Well, I can't wait for the next one then. Unless they preserve it.
I mean, is there anything that sticks out that they wouldn't cover?
Why
The
are
engineer
you
fixed it.
changing the driveway? The location of the driveway?
I think the owner thinks they don't have it. Will look nicer.
It will look
Yeah,
better?
the driveway's on the garage and everything are on that side, and he thinks it's nicer to come in on the right side rather than on the left side.
Is it just as safe? with the,
They have to prove that they have the sight lines and
so you haven't done this stuff yet.
No.
There's an awful lot. I don't think we can go to final if you've got so much outstanding.
it could be a condition of approval if you so. to-
Well, they have to do it anyway, right?
Yes, correct.
So it is a condition of approval. Yeah, I see.
Yeah, but I mean, that's something that.
I'm sure that's like.
Well, it usually is. I mean, it's usually already done when we're looking at plans. That's what I'm saying. But it doesn't have to, I mean, they'll make sure it is. So,
And we'll need to submit for a driveway opening permit as well, so it'll get reviewed by our office as well as the township.
all right, you're good.
I'm good. Any other questions? All right, well, looking for recommendation. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm opening up to the public.
Understand this, get it? I do have a question of the driveway that. So Ed K's property lined up directly with my driveway.
Okay.
So you remember the Hallmark subdivision that was back there? When they made all those changes, I got all their water right down the middle of my driveway. And I talked to the township numerous times about this. So the question I have for the driveway. Is there something that we can do to make sure that if it's going on the right side of the house, where I understand, that that's in direct line with my driveway, can we just make sure we're paying attention to the water? Because when that water comes off that hill, I get 3 to 4 inches of steady water coming down my driveway.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. We experienced that through Hallmark. It was a big, that put some serious detention basins on that. For that to the engineers. Is that something that, we can look at? Oh, you're very welcome. Anybody else? All right. At this point, we're looking for a motion for it to recommend that preliminary final. Would anybody like to make that motion, subject to the conditions we just mentioned?
Oh, but I forgot what those are.
Okay,
The
so,
waivers.
yeah, so the waivers. So we have line of sight. We have basically the expansion of Curley Mill Road. Or if they subdivide lot 2 and 1 together.
Okay.
And then we have the driveway opening. And what else? I think that's it.
And the letter and et cetera, all the other stuff.
Yep, that's in the letter. We have a motion?
Yeah.
Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carried. Thank you very much for explaining everything.
I'll listen to me.
All right. Fourth on the agenda, 140 Upper Church Road. For preliminary and final review, residential minor subdivision. I know who you are, but if you can introduce yourself, that would be great.
Good evening, Rob Cunningham with Homesteading and Engineering. I'm here, Joe Casadani is here. He has another property, that he's looking to subdivide. We have the review from Gilmore. Before we get into introducing the plan, there are some, I guess, zoning related items that still need to be resolved. Speaking with staff, we're gonna work through those, but I'd rather go through the plan, introduce it tonight. You can ask some general questions. We'll revise, we'll work out the zoning related items. We'll come back with a more refined plan, and a path forward. So that's what we're seeking tonight.
That was easy enough.
Yeah, but again, since we're here, I don't wanna not.
No, I got you.
Share the plan with you.
No, this will help.
So it's a sketch plan. I'm just kidding.
With
Just
a little
kidding.
more- We have a little
Just
more
kidding.
interest, and that's good. We submitted a sketch plan. Some of the items, as we got through the engineering, triggered additional things that we need to review. So
Just so you know, excuse me, yeah, on your zoning, on your cover sheet here, zoning, right, you have King Road.
No, that makes sense.
No, it doesn't. Or does it?
No, I mean,
Gotcha.
if it was Warminster Township, then we'd all be, at least at the same time. The property is approximately 13.5 acres. It is along Upper Church Road. It was subject to a subdivision back in I believe it was the 80s, to create this parcel and then the parcels that surround it. We're here now looking just at 140 Upper Church. There exists on the lot today an existing single-family dwelling and 2 barns. It has a shared driveway with the neighboring property 146 with 146 Upper Church Road. That was part of the subdivision. The lot line actually runs down what is essentially the middle of the driveway. There was no easement created for it. It's just a shared access agreement between the 2 properties. What we are proposing is to subdivide the lot to create 2 new single-family homes with 2 new individual accesses onto Upper Church. The existing access for the shared driveway kind of has a Y or split configuration at the road. One of the zoning items that came up was the multiple access points. We'll kind of work through that. It might require us to remove our portion of the Y, or some other iteration of that. Joe, when he purchased the property, had obtained a driveway permit for a new driveway, which would be the proposed driveway for lot 1 as the project would move forward. So obviously, we just have to discuss, make sure we have a legally conforming access and everybody's happy with it. But like I said, there's no easement for the shared accesses that exist today. So that could be something that can maintain, but we're kind of working through that.
There is no easement today?
There's no written or described easement. It is basically on the plan and in the deeds that access to both properties can be from that driveway. So it's kind of very open-ended.
It's kind of legal.
It's
Right, how long's it been that way?
over 30 years.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
My understanding from the history was when the subdivision went through, I think that all of the lots were remaining in the family. It was kind of like a big happy, no need for an easement. And then the lot got sold off and, I don't, know that there's ever been an issue, but obviously, what they say about fences. We use that current access. There's the existing single family dwelling. One of the things that Joe was proposing was to remove one of the barns, keep the dwelling in some fashion, and then construct a new dwelling. So we're gonna work through kind of the process to allow that. A guest dwelling is a permitted use in the WS district. It comes down to how you will sewer it, what the water situation is, how we're actually going to use the structure. So those are some of the things we have to go through. But it's on lot water, on lot sewer for both lots. They will have stormwater management systems to mitigate their new impervious. There is a large area of woods and there's a wetlands and a stream along the left side of the plan. There's an existing pond, so it has some features. We're trying to respect those. And the zoning ordinance requires that we do respect those with the buffers and disturbance requirements. So our intention is to meet all of those requirements. But that's kind of our proposal as it sits today. We do have this letter from Janine's office. There are some very technical things. There are some big ticket items we need to discuss. We're here just tonight to kind of give you an overview of the plan and see if you have any general questions.
Yeah, it's a pretty long letter. I wouldn't even know where to start. Is there anything, I mean, since they're coming back, is there anything that we need to point out besides the water management study?
Have you given into consideration options for improvements?
Well, as noted in the B4. Yeah, we had looked at it, in general, we would comply with those related to, milling and overlaying and things like that. We haven't looked at it in detail, obviously, we had what I would consider bigger fish to fry, and make sure we can. But obviously, when we meet on staff. And then we will be requesting some waivers. They're all related to similar things as the King Road project, no lighting. Some waiver of road improvements, no curbing inside of along Upper Church. Partial waiver for the street trees, obviously subject to some additional information. Street lights and then public improvement. So, obviously, based on the need of Upper Church Road, we're not looking to really widen it or redo it. It's a minor subdivision. So our hope is we can kind of keep it the way it feels today.
Anything else?
Neighbors were all notified.
The neighbors were notified. I think we actually notified more neighbors than we needed to, but that's okay. If there's anybody here who has questions, we can answer them this evening, but like I said, this is informal. We will be back. We will re-notify of the next attendance at plan.
Okay. So as far as we go, there's no action tonight on our side, right?
No.
Okay, good. I'll open up to the public. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Get your name and address, please. Okay.
Oh,
If I come out from the north side of that project, I cannot make a right turn with a big vehicle because that street is so narrow. Also, my mailbox is on the inside of that Y, so the mailman pulled in one side and pulled out the other. So we had a discussion about, I know they wanted to close that lower end, but the agreement that I have access to both sides. The other issue, the end of the driveway back by the zone, there is a drain system for the water runoff from my property. So if barns are being torn down, I need to make sure that drain stays there, because that water can lay in that section 2-3 feet high with heavy downwards. There's a huge water runoff issue there. So I need to make sure that the water is taken care of back by those homes. There are my two features. The street, that driveway, that street is very coming out to make a right hand turn over the driveway, and I'm right here and getting out of my camper. I will not be able to do that from the north side of it.
Is this something that we look into, or?
Yeah, that we'll discuss. I mean, obviously, we have a resident who has concerns. Some of what she's requesting flies in the face of what the ordinance currently allows. So if there's a way,
I mean, I can't picture it, so I'll be frank with you.
So what you have is you have these two driveways, and then they're like a Y, they come together
Okay,
about 30 feet off the road.
Okay.
The mailbox, and then there's a driveway that goes straight back.
okay,
Left side is my property, right side is hers.
okay,
The deed and the agreement and the wording in the deed, the title, it says that that these entrances for these, for both sides, like the entrance that's on the left is on my property. the
Gotcha.
one's on the right is on her property.
Gotcha.
The shared position starts at the mailbox, straight back. And it says that neither party can be blocked to get back there. They need peaceful access to that.
Okay.
She has peaceful access on her side. We remove this side, she still comes in her way and right down the lane.
That's no problem. That road's so narrow, my camper, I'm not gonna be able to make that turn.
Question, is it not possible to have her, give her her own driveway of
She
that
would be
part?
Basically getting her own driveway at this
Mm.
point, so what would
No,
happen?
no, get rid of the shared part,
So
just.
to that point, what we could do, right side, she comes in. And then where it goes down, as you're driving down this driveway, it's like half of it's on my property, half of it's on hers. If we were to take my property line, move it over 5 feet, she can have it. Give it to her free,
What about giving her,
then she has access.
what about giving her a T at the road?
Well, here's the thing, when you come down and you do this divide,
Yeah.
you see it, there's this like, the road is like a hump, like. When you're going down Church Road, the hill kind of comes up like this, so when I'm on my side and she's on her side. In
The
the
humps in
middle,
the middle.
from about that side of the room to that side of the room. This mound, this hump, like it just matches the rest of the road. You can't cut that out. What she's saying is when she pulls out, she can make a left pretty easy, but making it right is tough. So if her driveway was widened to the right,
Uh-huh.
maybe 5 feet, she'd probably have to put in a new pipe, but bottom line is she could, that would be easier. She would have clear access and meet all requirements. And yes, you can't do, you can't take anything straight down because.
Oh, okay, that
That
point,
also,
that
yeah,
is the answer.
So that mountain, that little mound, that really can't be moved. But the way it is now is really a bad thing. It's not good. And again, I'm not, it's like if it makes life easier to give her 5 feet of land, I'm not opposed to that. Like, I just make it comfortable. This way she has her own driveway. I certainly don't want to share a driveway,
No, they're bad news.
It's a bad idea. So we're trying to, so we would close our end, because we have our new driveway to lot line, that would be the best thing. We'll work it out. Yeah, we'll work it out. I'm not looking for any gain. I'm just, trying to make it work. Compromise.
I mean,
Where we are, is we understand that it's in, an atypical situation. If we were proposing this today, you'd laugh us out of the room.
Oh,
if
I
we
know.
had No easement, and it wouldn't, if.
a wide driveway too, so I get it completely. And the trailer, so I get it.
Yeah, the other, if we close off that south side of that driveway, the snow, the rain, the snow especially blows through the whole field down and lays right there. If you now set up or something, I'm gonna have 4 feet of snow in my driveway every single time we get it. Because right now, it can blow right down.
There's relief there, and I think would have to remain that way. Like the driveway would be the stone that's there now, it would just be dirt. It wouldn't be built up like a mountain. It would still, that's how the grade would,
I guess we
where it comes down the driveway, just roll down it. Just be,
To see.
we'd have to meet that grading, requirement.
I drove by it today and I didn't pick,
Oh, it's tough.
I
It's
didn't,
really
well, I
tough
didn't
to
pick it
see.
out. I mean, I just looked at that and then I looked at this other parcel and,
I think what I'm hearing is
yeah.
they're willing to work with you, to try to solve the issue the best they can. And,
If you're gladly do that, then it would be easy to make it agree, but how would I get my now that lower end? We didn't need that lower end right now to get back here. Wait a minute.
I honestly don't care if we were to move the property line over and flip it and she could have both sides. I don't care. She could leave it alone. It's this much land compared to this much land.
right.
And we can make her life easier if she, if that doesn't run into a problem for me.
Joe,
If we can sit that out, we can do that. I'm not,
All you're
We got it.
out of them, that's all I hear. And also the water issue at the other end of the driveway, make sure that drain doesn't go there, nothing built up over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, if we can come up with a solution where it could stay just the way it is and the township's happy with it, we'll try that.
I just, again, we start moving lot lines, we start changing setbacks.
I mean, we're gonna look, maybe we're gonna look for some, I mean, if it's gonna hurt me, I'm not gonna do it. But if it's gonna be like something that the township's willing to say, oh yeah, if you're gonna be 5 feet short on something, we can go through that and see whatever works best.
We're gonna meet with staff. We'll also meet with probably staff out, or at least Gilmore out at the site to look at the driveway. Before we come back.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great that everybody's going to work together, so. That's good. All right,
Question on the location of the homes. What is the setback for those, where you've got them right now, or wherever your building envelope's gonna be? But where you have them right now, is there a reason they're not set back further because of topography or what?
Not features.
Yeah.
There's a stream, and pond. So they're already set back 100 feet from the road, so,
It's a
obviously.
big lot, so.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't, it looks like, I'm like, really? And they look like they're like gonna be staring at each other's bathroom windows, you know? No, I know, it's a lot.
There's about 90 feet between the two houses. So,
I would just think for that much space, acreage, if I was buying the place, I'd wanna not be right next to the other piece. I mean,
Just drive over the pond. But that's a stay where we.
yeah, right, exactly.
that could be your first buyer.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
There's always a part of it. So just wondering, how far are they allowed to build towards the farm? I guess is concerning. See what I'm saying? You go off Church Road, my understanding was they're 70 feet off Church Road, to the conservatory, and 60 for easement. And is that correct? Yes, that's one question, and the other is, what's the intent and, how far back towards that farm are they gonna build?
the farm, this is Upper Church Road, the farm back here.
Yes, correct.
We're on the other side of the stream.
Yep.
There's the pond here. The two homes are up on the road.
There's no buildable, can't build back there.
So there's nothing that we're gonna do back there. That's some of the stuff we're gonna be working.
See that the houses are here. She was just saying, why aren't they further back? Just, there's too many natural features you don't want to disturb, and they're gonna stay up there by the road, and that's all gonna stay. Can't build anything, not building. It's, slow and solid stuff.
Yeah, access.
Access is.
Driveway. If there's, stuff done on this barn and outbuildings and house, am I gonna have, is this gonna be run by me again? If they decide to do something with this house or any kind of property changes back there? Like, when will I get notified, since as of the way it sits right now, it's a shared driveway, so the only thing separating us is the driveway. So suppose down the road, we build this house, these people want to do something with this farmhouse or this barn or whatever, is that gonna have to come back again to zoning and committee and before me, so that I would be with my department, or do I have some understanding of what's done over there just because of the close proximity to my property?
Who wants to answer that?
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on what use they're gonna use, like you were talking about that existing dwelling that you were talking about keeping for a guest house. If that's a permitted use as per the ordinance, as per the certain regulations in there. All they would really have to do is come in for permits. But if they're not meeting their setback requirement or the use isn't correct as per the zoning ordinance, then would go in front of the zoning hearing board and you would be notified of that meeting. So.
Faces, my deck looks at that property. So if there's major changes or anything like that, obviously I would want.
You might get a better view though.
What's that?
You might pick up a better view.
No, I love it.
Oh, gotcha.
Anybody else? I want to keep the old farmhouses the way it is. We're gonna talk about that, just. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Somebody mentioned something about streetlights. What is that?
Street lights. We don't wanna do street lights, but the ordinance requires it, so we have to ask for a waiver. To other projects, they've granted it based on the nature of the neighborhood. We have to request a waiver. I'm hopeful that we'll get no street lights again.
Unless you want streetlights.
Well, I was thinking of LED, bright,
Yeah,
blue LED.
5,000 K.
Yeah.
I can't see, yes, sir.
Ms. Nelson, way up Richford Road. Where are the two on-site septics, especially with relationship to the lower house, which is getting toward the watershed, the creek, and the riparian buffer area toward the bottom of the hill?
They're in the back left field.
You want to turn the plan around,
Yeah.
Joe?
They would be back here. So we would have to provide piping to pipe it across the creek.
You're gonna do it all the way back here.
Correct.
Yeah, but that's that's where the creek starts back there.
The creek starts up here and works its way down, so this is back here in this area up here, away from the creek.
Why aren't you doing it on the other side?
There's not enough space.
I've got a problem with that.
Okay,
I'll be honest with you, that's right next to me. I don't want another sewer system over there, which is a little bit above my well band. So,
it has to be permitted through the township and the health department to meet all of their regulations, so.
well, you would have to guarantee that none of that septic's gonna seep into my well, or we're gonna have a big problem.
It's required to be
I will
100 feet.
guarantee you of that.
Speak up, Jenny.
That septic system is required to be 100 feet from your well, so they will have to meet that separation requirement.
Does it have to be 100 feet from the creek and all that as well? I mean, is there a concern about that that water runs right down into the lake? That's a drinking water lake, isn't it? I mean, don't people drink that water? I mean, is there a
No,
concern?
not me.
So
Lake is so.
we have to provide two systems locations. One would be the active primary location, one is a backup location if something ever happens. So that is one of the assurances that the township requires. Secondly, it is located approximately 200 feet from the creek. And I would say we're about 100 feet from any downstream property lines for our system. So we're providing the buffers that we are required. And then we have to go through the process of getting DEP approval for our sewage planning, health department approval for the actual systems, and township approval for both of them. So.
And these are good systems. I mean, these
Yeah.
are not, these are not the systems that everybody else seems to have that leak right into the lake.
I would be more worried about the existing systems than the
Exactly,
new ones.
exactly.
Because the
Our proposal is to provide two new systems for this lot and two new systems for this lot. And that they would be sized according to all the regulations, and they are, standard sand mound, traditional back-grade systems. They're not, an alternative system or anything like that, kind of was going around a couple years ago, so they're your traditional sand mounds. So they will be built to last and they will be good systems.
And it would have to be approved by the Board of Health for Bucks County, so it's. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you very much for coming. And you have any further questions for us? You good?
No, we're all set.
All right.
We're gonna work it out.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank
you
you.
coming in.
Okay.
I know. Well, the zoning officer had you actually on first, then they had Curley Mill on the second and had you on last, but I corrected all that. It's good, just good. All right, last on the agenda is 6 King Road,
No, you didn't.
6-lot residential subdivision. I think we had some tweaks from last time you were here. One was the water management, right? And what else? The lighting?
Lighting,
Lighting. was-
and then the landscaping and meeting with neighbors.
All right, with the neighbor. That's a lot of the issues they were, they were concerned about certain things. I gave answers I could, they can. So for the purpose of, if you can introduce yourself again, the project for the folks that haven't been here yet, real fast, and then we'll resume where we left off.
Sure, Rob Cunningham, Homes Cunningham Engineering. I'm here with Joe Castellani, the president of Castellani Homes. We're here for the subdivision, the Estates of Hilltop, 396 King Road. We're back. We had a very spirited discussion last time. We recommended preliminary approval. But there were some issues. Instead of taking preliminary approval to the board, we'd rather come back, review the engineering or the detailed items we discussed. And hopefully we're here for a preliminary / final recommendation that we take the board of supervisors to present the plan. We have Gilmore's latest review letter dated July 17th. I'm happy to state it is substantially a will comply review. There are some waivers we are requesting. They are still the same from last time. The big ticket items that we discussed previously was the water resources impact study. Our hydrogeologist worked with Gilmore's hydrogeologist, had much back and forth to revise the study, perform additional testing. We resubmitted that. We do have a memo from Gilmore's office. I believe there are no outstanding items related to that.
No outstanding technical
Items. There are some procedural items related to well depletion agreements and things like that. Obviously, those will be executed as the project moves forward. The other easy items to discuss is
I love that.
the client, Joe, met with some of the surrounding neighbors after that planning commission meeting. We have revised the landscape locations to better buffer based on what the
Could you turn that around for the
Sure.
people? We have plans. You can just discuss. Thank you.
Better place the trees in locations. I believe they talked about some other site related things, but the landscaping was the I guess this discussion item we had here. And we believe we have revised the plan in a way to better situate the landscape. The last item that we had discussed at our last meeting was related to lighting. Joe and I went back, we reviewed kind of what the program could be. As Joe previously stated, we're gonna work within some parameters to put in the HOA documents that are provide some restrictions, provide guidelines so that it isn't lighting up the world on each individual home. So that brings me to the item of discussion in Gilmore's letter, which is item C9 on page 4. Gilmore's comment is residents have expressed concern regarding lighting installed by future homeowners. We recommend provisions be added to the HOA documents requiring any light fixture to be dark sky compliant as certified by the International Dark Sky Association. I guess the parameter that Joe and I had discussed would be, because giving them documents that could be changing, and finding fixtures that are dark sky compliant might be harder.
It's not,
I'm not willing to do the whole dark skies thing. I did meet with the neighbors. We talked about limiting, the amount of lumens that could go up on each house and, you know, made that very fair. It seemed, it was.
limiting
agreeable
them to a number?
To a number, to.
A total lumen.
Total lumen,
Total
so
lumens,
that it doesn't go above, like, if you have three, I was saying like, hey, 8 lights and what's the lumen, I forget. 1,000 lumen. But as Rob pointed out, you know, when we were talking, he said, you know, you can have 3 lights, 5 lights, 9 lights, as long as it's not more than 1,000 lumens, so that makes it a little easier. So I'm willing to put in the association docs that 1,000 lumens for any uplighting would be the most. The other thing that was concerned, colors on the one side was, you know, light on the back of like lot 1, 2, and 3, you know, going in their bedroom or whatever, spotlight. You know, lights on now, it's coming down, not the ones going up. So I'm also willing to put in there that there would be no second floor or no
Light trespassing.
spotlighting above 12 feet or something, like first level, no second spotlighting in the rear of lots 1, 2, and 3. That's reasonable to put in there. I, you know, wouldn't want that either. The distance, you know, once we met and all the neighbors, we were walking, you could really see the distance. Like when you're looking at this 36 acres and you're saying, oh, you know, I want a tree here, and you go like, okay, you go like, where's that at? There. We did move some stuff around. Everybody seemed to be pretty, you know, as much as I, you know, can, you know, accommodated what I can as far as layout. I think we're okay with the trees and stuff. Lighting, again, I'm willing to put something like that. I'm not willing to put like this dark skies compliant. I don't know what all that means, but I'm not going to put everybody through all of that. And if that changes in 3 years because somebody voted that they should do something different, these people now have to change things on their house. So I'm not willing to go that far with it, but I am willing to say, look, we'll put a limit on that. We'll put a cap on it, and it's a reasonable cap, something that would be, you know.
Beyond that, what about, excuse me, just asking, of course, as usual at a turn, but the color of the lighting is really significant, like the blue light, the
Yeah,
white,
so-
the blue spectrum of the LED white light, the bright white is so much more offensive than the yellow spectrum of the warm lighting, cool lighting versus warm
So
lighting.
when you're looking at these houses, they're hundreds and hundreds of feet off the road. They're, whether it's a little yellow or a little white at that distance is not going to bother a neighbor. It doesn't matter what anybody says, it's just not going to bother. It's not going to make any difference. You know, how it looks on the house, whether it's whiter or yellower. We're not talking about a little tight neighborhood. We're talking about 36 acres with 6 houses, and the neighbors are all on large acres too, well, you know, for the most part.
I can see Hilltown from my
Well,
house.
that's okay. I mean, that's not my fault, but what I'm saying is.
I mean, they're up there like Emerald City.
And you know, no one else is doing it.
They're
So
on 36 acres or on 42 acres, I'm sure.
I'm far enough off the road. I'm not in a development where I have homes close by. I am far enough, the houses are spaced far enough, and the sites where this 6 homes are far enough from any of the neighbors that the shade of white is not gonna be, and I don't want to have to do that to people
I
that
mean,
are wanting to
to
put a
be
light.
fair, to the builder is, you drive by in Bucks County and you'll see farmhouses working farms with pole lights on
Yeah.
top of their barns.
Yeah.
And you can actually see it. You go to like Bishop for the
fields.
States or what
Nothing
have
like
you.
that.
You got these big telephone poles on top of the barns. But I mean,
Limited to
you
1,000
can't limit,
lumens and-
can't limit one for me, not for thee, you know,
There were specific
Start somewhere.
properties that were mentioned. After that meeting, I went and drove them at night. And as you drive, as you mentioned Hilltown, you drive along Township Line Road. That, I guess it's an old Cutler development, right? Those houses are all lit up, but those houses are also 20 feet apart. And it's house, they're all lit, right? And there are houses on Curley Mill Road that are lit, that are set back 100 feet from the road, which is probably lit the same level, but it doesn't, it's not in your face.
Not saying gonna impact.
And then, you know, you go down Township Line and it's Barclay. You make the left down to Barclay, there's a house that's on the road and it's well lit.
and New Britain Woods.
Also, so like, we're 6 houses on 36 acres, they're very spread out. and they're set back from the road.
Hilltop, that's the name, Hilltop,
It's a name.
because they're
Yeah,
all
so
going
listen,
up the hill.
So each of these lots too, we have like trees around, there's, it's.
We all know the
they're
property.
set.
If that's the biggest problem.
And, yes, we
I
understand.
don't, we
that
don't,
it's-
I don't know what 1,000 lumens means. I don't, honestly, don't know.
I mean.
I mean, what is that, is 1,000 lumens?
I think the engineer's office can talk, I think they talk about this, a lot.
It wouldn't be a lot. It is a small landscape uplight that you can purchase from Home Depot. It isn't a high powered thing. It's low voltage lighting. So it isn't a spotlight that is back from your house away. It's the one that's against the facade that lights up your landscaping and lights up the first floor. That's what 1,000 lumens, 4 of those at 250 lumens each.
And that's all they can
That's not
have.
watts, how do you relate that to watts?
Well,
75, 50?
no, because
Like-
everything's LED, so
That's
it's
lumens, right?
it's a 10-watt light bulb, but it's
No,
not.
but it's a lot more light.
It's a low voltage light. So
Yeah.
it's not,
It's-
correct, it isn't those projecting out spotlights. Like it's at the stadium, it is more of a,
The other thing that I'm willing to even do that and limit that, which I think is, these homes, like, why would I limit these people to that? Been doing this 44 years now. I'm not Toll Brothers by any means, but I mean, I've been building and I do custom and I have certain clientele. I've never had any of them load up ground lights. They just don't, they want soffit lighting, or down lighting, but they don't load up these, lights up on the house. I've never done it. I mean, we actually wire it for them to do stuff in the future, and they could do something in the future, but very rarely. We might end up with some LED lighting on the driveway edge as you come to the front door, but these spotlights up, I'm okay with limiting how many we do, or that lumens, having like 3 or 4 lights. Only because I just don't have that request, I think people will be.
And then the
fine with
type of
that.
fixtures that we, excuse me,
Yeah, it's
the
okay.
type of fixtures that we require, that would be above that floor, if you had any, they would have to be shielded.
we'll cut off.
Yeah, full
Right.
cut
Yeah,
off, full
basically,
cut off.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Like I've had a little bit of soffit lighting to light up the veneer, but it's.
How about motion sensor? I'm just kidding, I'm just kidding. You keep pushing.
Yeah, right, it's crazy, it's driving you nuts.
Okay.
I personally appreciate you reaching out to the neighbor.
I think it's.
And I think that's commendable.
Yeah, I try to, and I understand, I don't have any problem, I mean, this last meeting, people saying, it's not part of the community and I have to live here, part of this community, I live here. And,
And your partner
he lives there. He's
Lives there
living
and he
in
will own the
Lockport
property.
right now, it's. We're connected.
Any questions from the public? Yes, ma'am.
He's afraid that the requirements will change, the association will change its requirements and then.
Like, read that, not knowing what they all are, and then having to sell that to everyone, pamphlet after pamphlet, or, change after change, where if I'm saying we're limiting to this amount, that's easy to comprehend. I'm trying to sell a home too, and build a home to someone's liking. And if I have to give them a document, it's 17 pages about their lighting, they're gonna say, this guy's crazy. So I'm just saying, if we say 1,000 lumens, the guy doesn't put 3 or 4 lights out, and he goes, hey, that's easy. It's easy to pass, so to speak. I think it's okay. I whatever other dark sky regulations, they might come up with something that I'm not aware of, and then it bites me in the butt. I don't, and the guy just bounce doesn't know either, and then somebody goes knocking on the door one day, So I think what we're agreeing to is something that will work. It's simple, simple.
And we're agreeing to a restriction on lighting that isn't otherwise restricted at all in the township. Right, like-
Has anybody ever done this before? Has anybody ever agreed to?
You're gonna be the first.
I don't want to be the first.
You're gonna be the first and we're on a roll.
That's good. Yes, sir. What's your name and address, please?
A 4-foot long fluorescent puts out about 2,900 lumens. So 1,000 lumens is about a big bag. Just give us some idea.
Less than that bulb.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Jonathan Long, I represent, I was at 432. I just had some questions and some. Not just on lighting. We'll mix it up a little bit. You know, there's stormwater BMPs on each of the 5 proposed lots. My clients were concerned about, you know, going forward, who is going to be maintaining those? Are they gonna be the responsibility of the lot owner themselves, or will it be the HOA?
They would be the responsibility of the individual lot owners, subject to the, township's operation and maintenance agreement.
So that would be part of it, that the township would have the right to enter and inspect, et cetera.
Correct.
I know the landscape plan you presented, has a few extra trees and things like that addressed on it. I'm kind of curious about the general idea of what's gonna be done with particularly the 2 back lots. Since it is former agricultural land, you know, those are former fields. What's gonna be done on the conservation easement portions? How is that? Is it gonna be meadow? Is it gonna be reforested? Is there a plan for those conservation areas?
There's no plan. It will not be, one of Gilmore's comments was related to, ceasing the agricultural use, which is what is proposed.
Yeah, I mean, we understand it's not gonna be a farm.
Right, yeah, understood.
I'm concerned about what's gonna be there.
It would be up to the individual property owner, but, our thought with that, it would be allowed to naturalize. It wouldn't be converted with any intention of becoming a forest or anything like that. Is that correct, Joe?
Correct, it would just be naturalized, like stay where it is. I think we even have markers on the plan somehow to make sure that each homeowner knows that part is conservation, don't touch it. Or.
So it'll become a forest again. Eventually.
It'll be a while, but it could become a forest, yeah.
And then next, so I know that there's a lot of discussion about the well water we understand now that there's better source of water. It's water reasonable impact study that's been submitted. We were actually not aware of that a decision had been made. We actually went to the trouble of having, the college went to the trouble of having a hydrogeologist review the prior 2 revisions. That hydrogeologist echoed a lot of Gilmore's concerns. There's been talk of setting up the escrow, having a well water depletion agreement. Who would be the party of that? Would it be Casadonte or would it ultimately be the HOA?
That's a question for.
The agreement is prepared by the solicitor, and Mr. Casadani would sign the agreement, passed on to the water, it would be with Mr. Casadani and it would stay that way. Typically, it's written to last 5 years past occupancy of the last house. And
then it would become. Is it only for 5 years past the occupancy of the last house? Or would it be for basically perpetuity?
that would be a standard language. It's the final language that was giving you a typical example of how the language could be written. But it would go from the last occupancy for 5 years. And then if there were no issues, as they monitor it throughout that period, there are no issues after that, then the agreement would cease to exist.
Isn't there the escrow sits for that period with the township?
So essentially Mr. Casadonte or Casadonte, be the signatory to it, not the HOA.
I thought it was 10 years.
I think it is 10 years.
That it's, why is it kind of not
It's an agreement
definite?
written for this particular property.
So how does the public get to know what it says? After it's negotiated?
No, I think it's a standard form document.
No, she's saying it's not, it's negotiated.
I'm just saying that this agreement hasn't been written yet, so I can't say for sure, but generally speaking, all of the agreements that I've seen.
I would think they would be standard.
There's no ordinance requirement, so they decided at one point 5 years
It isn't part of the ordinance? The requirement for an agreement and for an escrow is there, but not the terms of it. That's what you're saying.
Somehow passes the HOA. My experience is land use lawyer, HOAs tend to not having money down the road and they choose other things, so our concern would be whether or not completed and then have to recharge it or something like that. It's an HOA. So
The money stays with, is escrowed with the township and stays with the township until the agreement is, I guess, terminated. So
it actually has to be used, the escrow money, if something happens. And then it has to be, in terms of the agreement, I'm guessing, it would have to be refilled, you know. And my concern would be, guessing Passadani would have the money to say. Our concern would be if it is passed through an HOA, whether the HOA would have the money to do that, and whether that would just leave, you know, anybody might be affected by the wells dries. No fun. That's our concern. So one of our other concerns is, I understand that there were changes made to the plans of the houses in order to meet the requirements under for well drilling, such as lowering the number of bedrooms in the houses from 5 to 4. Is there going to be some kind of deed restriction or something that would prevent property owners in the future from, like, if there are basements in these homes, putting in the basement, you know, an additional bedroom, or splitting a bigger bedroom into 2 or something like that, in order to make sure that for perpetuity going forward, these houses don't suddenly, you know, the number of bedrooms start going up in these houses over time, as is more common. So, or say somebody proposes an extension on a house to build a bed space. So that would be our concern going forward. I understand, and we appreciate that they've made the changes to, you know, better facilitate the wells, but that would be our concern going forward. Or anything that's going to be done in that regard.
that would all be documented with the township and the Board of Health.
Board of Health and the township. If I were to go in, or if a client goes in to add a bedroom or, you know, something in addition to the house that has a bedroom or bathroom, goes to the township, you know, if it's a 4-bedroom septic and they're adding a bedroom, it has to go to Board of Health for approval, which they won't get, or they have to increase the size of the septic. So that's all monitored that way. You can't just build, you know, you just can't just build another bedroom. Okay.
It would be part of permit system, a new permit.
Correct, and same as any other.
That's true.
Leo Keller, 432 King Road. We are talking about wells, not septic.
Yeah, exactly.
But we mentioned something earlier that I was not familiar with. You said that you were going to be monitoring the wells. I don't know who's going to be monitoring, what wells are going to be monitored, and how long are these wells going to be?
The wells are not actively monitored, but we've run all of the tests. We've proved that the development will not have an impact on the surrounding wells. In the time period that the development is built, the agreement runs out. If any neighboring property owner believes that they've been aggrieved, they monitoring their well themselves could act upon the agreement for the well depletion. So that's the monitoring. It would be done by the individual property owners.
Okay.
So
And we're digging these wells deeper and wider now? Did I read that in the? paper?
And with acid,
It all depends on the well and what it's yielding. Thanks. So let's just gotta speak easy, Joe, just let him.
is there-
Or-
Jeff Clark, Valley Environmental Services. I'm a professional geologist. I did the water study. Clarify the previous statement on the monitoring network. That monitoring network is required for the my client, the developer to provide that monitoring. It's not the individual homeowner. So the monitoring, there's a monitoring plan. I can read it if that's would help anybody. I can go through it, but it's monitoring of adjacent properties. Currently, there are 3 that were monitored during the test that were accessible. The monitoring plan states that any additional wells on an adjacent property, which Mr. Keller is, if his well were made accessible, it is currently in a pit that's with a sanitary seal, it's not accessible. If that were made accessible at the surface, the monitoring plan that was approved by Gilmore says that his well could be monitored as well.
I was just curious with the monitoring.
No, it's the same as we talked about when we first did that, that your well's not accessible.
I
and it's
understand.
hit the way it is, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how long and who.
It's the duration of I believe the duration of the well depletion agreement.
Okay.
But Jeff, if somebody wasn't monitored, they'd still have, they would be able to take action via the well depletion agreement if they.
Correct, yeah,
That
even if they're not monitored, if their resident is not adjacent and they're for some reason, even though we've shown that we're not going to affect anybody here. If they were affected and they could show that, they were affected by that, adversely affected, that they're part of the well depletion agreement too. I can't remember, Jenny, do you know how far that goes? Is that a quarter mile? I believe that, quarter mile.
So if somebody has pressure, and I don't know anything about it, but if somebody, let's say the pressure should be 60 and it drops down to 32 and they were always at 32, let's say, how we did
Pressure has to do with the pump.
Yeah,
I mean, you know what I'm saying, like the gallons per minute.
So if, for example, if somebody was doing a load of wash and every time they did a load of wash, their water level dropped to their pump, that they couldn't use the well the way they have been using it prior, then that's an issue that's covered by the well depletion
Right,
agreement.
but says who knows what they had before, and this is just a question for my own information.
Yeah, a lot of
Let's
these
say if they
stores
always
do
had weak
How do you
water
prove it?
pressure or weak water, how are we gonna know that?
It's true, because some people have come here already and said, well, it went dry 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, that went dry already. You know, it's, you know, it's kind of hard to say, like, I
Right.
agree with you, like, if the neighbor comes and says, well, gee, I only have 2 gallons of water a minute, I used to have 3.
That's the purpose of the monitoring network, is that you're continually monitoring these wells so that if, say, one well is affected, not only one well is going to be affected, there's going to be more than one well affected. So you
Right.
see it with the monitoring network, that there would be an issue.
And you have wells that you're monitoring.
Not monitoring currently, but that are on the monitoring plan.
So this test that's done, it's so extreme. It's like you're doing a pump test and you're pumping water out. I mean, he could describe it better in a nutshell. He explained to me, it's like,
It's an average of 300 gallons a day. We tested it at 1,300 gallons a day.
and he 1,300 gallons a day with no rain for a year.
Right.
With no rain for a year, with no added water going back into from anybody flushing the toilet or.
It's your one well, your one test well.
No, it's more than one.
Well, we did 2 test wells because of the low yield of the wells. However, the
Right.
test was done at a rate that each of the 6 wells is doing 1,300 gallons a day.
Understood, but.
Yeah.
So my question again, sorry, is, just to interrupt you, I'm sorry, is you're going to be monitoring which wells?
The wells on the site, and currently there are 4 off-site.
Okay, they're neighbors that have,
Access to, that we have.
that you have
access-
access
that we
to,
monitor
then-
during the
People that
test.
wanted to do it.
That we monitor
And they're-
during the test that were accessible.
and you're gonna monitor, continue to monitor.
But again, the monitoring plan says that if any adjacent neighbor that, wells weren't accessible, to the Kellers, Jeff, as well, yeah. That they would be added to the monitoring plan, that was what was approved by Gilmore.
Like my well's at 60 feet, my neighbor's at 600 feet. How his and mine will not be
But
affected.
that's the capricious nature.
Yeah, it depends on where you're at.
Problem, the whole thing.
Well, what I'm saying is if my well goes dry, my neighbors might not go dry.
So the study that was done and the extreme nature of the testing proved that even with all that extremity, it didn't affect any other wells. So if somebody comes to you, 5 years from now and says, hey, my well's affected, you gotta prove it was me, you gotta prove it was us.
Got it.
And we have a study that's done a lot of things, and it said we didn't affect. I don't know how you end up getting a check at the end of that day, so to speak. I mean, I don't want to speak too much out of turn about it because I don't understand it.
And by the way, this is for our information.
Yeah, I mean, dealing with this kind of stuff, how 5 years from now? So if somebody's got a well issue 5 years from now, it's like it's probably not from what's going on because it hasn't happened, like it wouldn't happen. In other words, like with this, the way it's done, it would have shown its ugly head, something would have happened. If something else happens that causes people to lose water, including us, it's not me, so it's I think it's like, how many times has that well depletion agreement been used in the township?
Oh, you
Zero.
actually use.
Oh, no, yeah, actually called on. Zero.
I got to tell you, 6 lots on 36 acres, with wells and septic, you're not gonna see a problem.
From
Done it.
your mouth to,
Well, again, that's why you've got a well depletion agreement and you've got.
And again, I think they've done everything we asked them to do.
yeah.
I mean,
It's,
they've done everything we asked them to do.
People read about water, we had such droughts and everything, it's a tricky area.
So, yeah.
Town, and about 8 weeks ago, I got a phone call from the neighbor lady to the left, and she was screaming in person and everything else, and she had a brand new well, a new pump, and, her well went dry, and she's yelling at me, it must be my fault. The only problem was we hadn't drilled any. Turns out it was an electrical issue, but she burst the hell out of me. I said, man, I'm thinking to myself, you just had a well put in, you just had a pump put in 2 weeks ago, did you check the breaker?
That's typically what happens.
You.
A lot of monitoring networks.
And that's where I
it's
am.
typically a
That's where I am.
problem.
Gotcha.
Gotta have broad shoulders.
There's no such thing as a quick question, but go ahead.
Yeah, I know. So say anything, the Keller's well goes dry. They're able to prove it was because of one of these other lots. What exactly happens under the terms of the well depletion agreement? So like, how is that remedy? How is the fact that their well is dry or, has some issue? How is that remedied under that well?
Who wants to take that?
We need our township solicitor
Yeah.
to chime in, that's illegal.
Or
I don't know
do
what
we
that
ask?
hypothetical
And in the
agreement
meantime,
says.
did one of the neighbors just throw a new well?
What? Is it just, they give money, or do they bring water in and pump it into the ground? Or
It's money, it's a money issue, I think.
From my understanding, with some reading language that I read recently, but it seems to me as though it's worked out between the developer and owner where they decided what the problem is. Maybe at the developer's expense, they pay to have the well, some sort of hydrofracking, some sort of service done to try to increase the yield.
I just think it's important for people to know. We've got these agreements. But he knows what actually happens.
I'd like to also say that if, I'm gonna build one house a year, maybe 1.5 houses, we're here for 6, 7, 8 years. And then we got another 5 years, it's 13 years later, somebody has a problem with it. Well, my first statement's gonna be, well, in that 13-year period, within that quarter mile, who else drilled a well? I'm just curious. Who else drilled a new well? If there's 19 people, let's get them involved because it could have been Mr. Jones or Mr. Smith. Why does it have to be Mr. Smith? So that's a really loaded thing. I mean, I don't understand it all either. And I don't, and again, maybe keep my mouth shut about it, but I don't understand it either. We're gonna do what everybody else has done though. There's other agreements. We've done this study. I think the study stands out the strongest because if I'm standing in court with somebody, it's gonna say 5 years from now, he caused my well to have a problem. And I can say there was 20 other wells, but I can also show you when we did ours, everything was really cool. Look at the study we did.
Right.
This is why you make us spend all this money and do this study so that we know it's not affecting. I'm gonna close the door on this, knowing that I am not affecting anybody's.
No, I mean, it's just like water
That's just the
pollution,
way it
just
is.
like water pollution, it can come from 3 miles away.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's
I don't think you guys have the answer either. Really.
we don't.
But we've done this, I mean, honestly, other developments have done it, you know, you've done other studies in this township, you've approved, you know, you approved sites on those studies. And we've met that criteria for those studies, everybody's satisfied,
And you have.
and we've done a little bit extra, you know,
Yep.
and we've gone back and done a little bit more. Lot 3 now gets 3,600 gallons a day, and they need 4. I think it's okay. I'm thinking it's gonna be, we're not gonna use the 36. Neighbors, you can have it, you can use it, we're only gonna need 4, yeah. So, that's what it is, you know, you're pumping 2-3 gallons a minute in a day's time, that's a lot of, we're not using that, we got 800 foot of storage. You could run that water for, we did a pump test and we were pumping, you know, vigorously at 3 gallons a minute, no problem. I mean, it's just, some of this stuff sounds absurd to me. I gotta shut up because.
No, I mean, I understand both sides. Everybody has a concern, including us that are on wells, you know, we don't want our wells to go dry,
agree.
but at
I
the same
agree. I don't think
time,
this is
it's,
something-
we can't control what we can't control. Yes, sir, one more question.
The issue with. Now there's a new letter from Gilmore,
Mhm.
I assume that they now have an agreement. And if that's the case, what changed? Was there new testing, was there a new interpretation? Was there some kind of negotiated agreement?
All the
What
above.
has to be-
We
Yeah,
we asked them
many
to do a
things
water
Well,
impact
given-
study,
given-
Yeah.
and they did that with a professional third party. And they came out, to everybody's, basically liking and understanding.
Revised.
It was revised, yeah.
Revised. Testing. Yeah, on an individual well, part pumping test that's required by the township, so that the individual well lot to produce water necessary from that lot.
That's another summary. That late, what, they, it didn't indicate that there was another testament.
Yeah,
Doesn't mean
there
the-
would have been 2-part pumping test on an individual well, that individual.
When was that testament?
I think that was done in May.
Yeah, subsequent.
It was after the last meeting. There was a comment in the letter.
After May 23rd.
And then a revised report was.
Correct. And each one of these wells has to also, when I go, from it, has to be a certain criteria to even get the permit. You can't build a house unless it's conforming. So whatever I have to do, I have to do.
We're not
Well,
worried
you have to
about your
track.
houses having enough water.
What's that?
We're not worried about your houses having enough water.
Hey, I'm not either. To tell you the truth, I'm not either. It was 700-800 well.
Wait, you're going down 1,000 now, right? But I thought I read that you're going down 1,000 feet now. And
There are several options.
10 inches wide and 1,000 feet down, and the deeper you go, wouldn't the deeper you go be better for the neighbors?
We need to move on this.
No, just question. I
Yeah.
would think.
I think they've done everything we've asked them to do, plus more. Can't control the water situation. Going to test to make sure that we're in compliance with all the rules and regulations from all the agencies that we have. With that said, this is a good discussion, very educational. At this point, I don't see any reason not to move forward with recommending preliminary final. Would anybody like to make that motion?
I do.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion
Yeah.
carried.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It says wood though. I don't want to turn. It's on this side. I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, you are. I agree, like, damn horse to them.
Oh, goodbye.
All right,
We're done. Adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
So.
All right, motion to adjourn. All right. What? Just finished. No, it's not that, it's just that everything else.